For those of you that don't know me, my name is Lindsay, and I am the Communications Associate for the Appalachian Program. I am also the president of the Pendleton County Convention and Visitors Bureau Board. I'm a Master Gardener, and I am also involved in our youth outreach and education work through Sprout School here at the university. This evening, I will be talking to you about some event-based marketing techniques that you can use to increase sales in your small business. And then I will turn things over to Catherine. Just a few housekeeping notes. The Q&A and chat box are open for everyone. So if you have a question during the presentation, please feel free to drop those in there and we will get to those as we can during the presentation. And if not, we will get to them at the end of our presentations. So we're going to talk about some tools for marketing your agritourism enterprise using event-based marketing to increase sales in your small business. The first thing that we're going to start off with is identifying what an expert is, because when we think about looking at pieces of content or what it is that we're going to be doing, I always want to hear from an expert. So according to Webster, a person who has a comprehensive and authoritative knowledge of or skill in a particular area is an expert. And I just want to remind all of you that you are all experts in what you do. You know more about your land, your forests, and your craft than the general public. So don't forget that you're that expert and people want to hear about what it is that you do. So event-based marketing is a type of marketing that focuses on events, creating and hosting those events, whether it be the promotion of a product, a service, or your overall brand. Event-based marketing can take many forms. This can look like a product launch. It can look like you holding a workshop, going to a trade show, or a really fun opportunity is creating an event with a partner in your community. So here we have pictured one of the events that the Appalachian Program participated in recently. This is Margaret and Jenny and myself. We are set up at the West Virginia Small Farms Conference in Charleston, and we had a couple of different things going on here, but we were doing syrup tasting and then collecting votes of which syrup was the favorite that people tried. So that's just an idea of something that you can do for an event-based opportunity. What does event marketing look like for agriculture? So most recently, the tree producers here in West Virginia celebrated Mountain State Maple Days. If you're not from West Virginia, that is our annual maple syrup festival that occurs on the third Saturday in February and March. So aside from Mountain State Maple Days, any kind of festival would be a great opportunity for your business to participate in as an event-based activity. The Buckwheat Festival is a big festival. Also, there's Trout Fest here in Pendleton County. There's lots of different opportunities throughout the year to engage through festivals. Also at the state fair, we've got our county fairs. And Maple in the Classroom is an initiative here at the university that I can definitely get you more information on if you're interested in that. And I have a few pictures to show of that, but encouraging field trips to your location, partner events. So if there is a small business in your community that it kind of just makes sense for you to be working together, just start a conversation. It can be as simple as getting that conversation started to see what happens. An example of a recent partner event that happened here in Pendleton County is we had a new coffee shop open up. It's called Elevated Grounds. And they did their launch during the first Mountain State Maple Day weekend. And they partnered with a local maple syrup producer, Cool Hollow Maple, to get maple water And that is what they made their cold brew from during those Mountain State Maple Day weekends. And that was a really fun partnership that they were able to talk a lot about on social media and gain a lot of attention and really excited patrons coming to their door. Farm to table dinners and special interest events are also really good opportunities. And what I have pictured here is a picture that we took earlier this year at Moonstruck Maple. They partner with Three Rivers Avian Center, also known as TRAC, to do sugar bush tours and also discuss what the forest does for our birds of prey and how those things work together. So that's another really fun opportunity for an event. So why do we want to use event-based marketing? Well, typically if you participate in Mountain State Maple Days, you know what an event can do for your small business. So we want to create activity, and what this activity gives you something to talk about, which gives people a reason to look into who you are and what you do and visit your location. It's a highly targeted form of marketing that usually shows really good results, especially for a small business or specifically our ag tourism businesses. So what is pictured here is this is a Maple in the Classroom program. So this is the teacher. This is Becky Hebner. This is Chris Grimes and Mel Grimes. They are the owners of Mountain Cajun Getaway in Circleville. And Mel is the entity here that engages with the school children through the Maple in the Classroom program. So the kids learn about science and ecology and math all in as to how it relates to maple syrup production. And this was sort of the culmination of what they had been learning. They got to come out to the Grimeses and see how the trees are tapped, check out how maple syrup is made. They got to make their own labels and take home a bottle of their own private labeled maple syrup. And if you have children, you know that if they get excited about something, they don't stop talking about it. And so this is a really cool way to incorporate an event into your small business. So we figured out that there's a couple different events that can work for an agribusiness. I'm going to specifically talk to the maple, using maple references, but this is applicable to any agribusiness. So you have tools that you use whenever you make maple syrup. There's also tools to use to make business happen. And some of those are more familiar than others, but moving forward, when we're talking about the marketing and messaging, I want you to think of this similar to how we think of syrup production. So the internet, the digital world is very similar to your sugar bush. It's big and it's broad and it's wild, but it's where you find the sweet stuff. And in the business world, that's kind of where we're looking for our customers is on the internet. So when you use digital marketing, think of this as whenever you've started to hang your tubing and it's bringing sap to the collection tank. When you're using digital marketing and talking about the event that you have going on, you are bringing interested people to your Facebook page or your Instagram page, or maybe it's your website. But sometimes during this process, you need a little bit of extra pull where a vacuum comes in, and that's where telling the story about what it is that you do, sharing your favorite recipes, even running ads, gives you that little bit of extra pull. And then, depending on the platform that you're on and how you're positioning yourself, the type of content that you're sharing, all of those things determine the type of customers that are going to be responding to your content and speeding up the sales process, similar to how the RO works in your production process. So you're very familiar with using these tools, and sometimes it's just helpful whenever there's an analogy when introducing new tools or new concepts. So we've decided, that events are going to be helpful. We've talked about the different ways that we can go about talking about your message, but how do you get your message out there and how do you tell your story so that you are attracting those interested parties and those potential customers? Well, this is where we tap into our business toolbox. So you can use things like social media, whether that be Facebook, whether it's, TikTok, if you have kids and they're really good at making the videos, let them help you out. Email marketing is a fantastic way to continually engage and promote, whether you're just sending regular emails, whether you have, a fully built out newsletter. It's a really good way for you to get the exact message that you want to the people that you want to hear it. Having a website, you can come on to webinars. You can either host your own webinar and teach about what it is that you are doing, or guest speak on someone else's. That's a great way to promote yourself and raise awareness about what it is that you are doing or that you're interested in. There's lots of podcasts out in the world today, and lots of people listen to podcasts. Starting one of your own is definitely an option, but to get started, just go guest speak. Everyone is always looking for content. They're always looking for somebody to talk about something new and cool and interesting. And so much of what happens in the agribusiness world, people are super interested in it. So it's a great opportunity for you. Local radio shows will also do this, and local TV stations. They need content. And so if at first they say no, keep reaching out to them and letting them know that you're available and that you have things going on and you are a willing party to share. So with social media, let's keep in mind that different social platforms will help you achieve different goals. New audiences and different audiences live on each of these platforms. So over here, I have the Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram icons. And these are the top used platforms in the world. Facebook is number 1. YouTube is number 2. Instagram is actually number 4. Number 3 is WhatsApp, but from a business building standpoint, it's not something that you want to incorporate in at the very beginning. So sure that we've all seen at least one of these. You've got a very broad audience on Facebook. YouTube is actually a fantastic search engine. So if you want to post content about how something is done or how it's made or the process, it's a really good tool to have that on there to help build your exposure online. Instagram is a very picture heavy application, so you want to have good looking images on there, but it's also a really good way to reach a younger audience who may know about what you are doing. So depending on who it is that you want to reach and what you are trying to achieve, that should really help sway your decision and the platform that you want to use. So for example, if you're not very good at taking pictures and you're not really sure how to reach people on Instagram, that's probably not the best place for you to start. If you're looking to reach a wider demographic of people of all ages, then Facebook, that's really a great place for you to get your start if you're not already there. So the next way that we can talk about your event is through email marketing. Now you might be thinking, I don't have an email list. Well, this is a great time to start one. You can send out a weekly newsletter, a monthly newsletter, send out product updates, give exclusive offers to people who are just using your email communications. Talk about you yourself as the producer or the farmer. Give out a recipe, anything like that. So before we get caught up in I've got to do social media and I've got to do email and I've got to do this. A lot of stuff can go in all of those places, especially in the small business world. So many things that you would post on social media, you can turn that into an email you're just going to make your email a little bit longer. So if you're talking about a recipe on your Facebook page, you can absolutely put that recipe into an email newsletter and send it out to people. But maybe you're going to talk about it a little bit more. Maybe you talk about the first time that you ever made it and what happened, or you can tell a funny story about a time that you made that recipe and it was an epic fail. For example, my mom tried to make maple syrup one time by boiling it in our kitchen, and the wallpaper came falling down out of our kitchen. So, that's a funny story. It wasn't exactly how things should have ended up, but it's a great conversation starter and it's something relatable. This is also a great place where you can give seasonal updates and let people know what is happening on your farm. Another great way to engage with the public about events and what's happening with your business is through live broadcast media. So that would be your webinars, your podcasts, radio, television. So, existing radio shows and television shows, even us webinars, we are always looking for content. It would be great to have people reach out to us and say, hey, we're willing to do this. So, keep that in mind as you are navigating your own marketing needs. You can find these types of outlets that are relevant to you and what you are doing and use them as well to grow your business. Even if it's just an initial conversation where you're introducing yourself and what you do, you would be amazed at what those conversations can turn into. Some of the other services or products that are available through your media or your multimedia partners are really useful tools. And some of these are available to you at no cost. So a lot of local news stations, local radio stations, they have a community events calendar that you can list your event on, or that they will talk about on air if you get it there. There are sponsored content and segments that they'll talk about what it is that you've got going on in line with the content that they are reporting on for the day. And there's sometimes a free or reduced rate in that if you are also a nonprofit. So that's something to keep in mind. And then each of these entities, radio, television shows, podcasts, they all have their own type of social media and website. And it's a place where they talk about the guests that they have coming on or the stories that they're going to be reporting on. And that's also a great avenue for you to get the word out about your place as well, as through a third party's website or social. Print media is still out there. So especially a lot of small towns are heavily reliant on their local newspaper. So that's a great place to get started, is with your local newspaper. And most print publications have an accompanying digital publication as well. Even if it's just, the weekly paper that gets put up on the website, it goes in different formats. And so that gets you access to different audiences. Specialty publications are also an option. These are either an insert into the paper, or they are an accompanying piece that's published at a different time. So maybe there's like a food magazine or a craft beverage publication that comes out, once a year. And that would be a really good fit for your business to advertise about what it is that you'll be doing over the course of that year. But with these types of things, you want to make sure that it's the right fit for you and makes sense for your business. There are contracts and stuff that can be involved in things like this. And so if you're not ready to give that type of commitment, that's totally okay. You can just check out a different outlet. So when it comes to all of this content and talking about your event, whether it be you're partnering with a local coffee shop or you're going to have a farm to table dinner, at the end of summer, early fall, all of the content that you are using to talk about this can and should be repurposed. And what I mean by that is that you can put a post up talking about, your favorite recipe to make whenever you're using maple syrup. But then you can also get on and do a Facebook Live and demonstrate you making that recipe. And then you can share that video to your stories or your reels, or link that video in an email and refer back to your original post that you had put up of, grandma's cinnamon rolls that you use maple syrup to make, whatever that may be. So you can create that content once and use it in different places throughout the month or throughout the year. Just make sure that you're developing a strategy and a plan in advance so that you're setting yourself up for success and not being stressed out. What I have here is a very generic sample of a content plan. And this is absolutely available for you to use. We will make our slides for both my presentation and Catherine's available to you after the webinar. So please feel free to use this because it's not specific to any one farm or any one producer. So you can give seasonal updates about what's happening in the woods or in the forest. We just wrapped up maple season, and spring is starting here in West Virginia. Talk about what's happening to the maple trees right now. Are your trees starting to bud? What color are the buds? How is that different than the season before? If you have recipes to share, do it seasonally. Put out a maple barbecue recipe during the week of Memorial Day, because Memorial Day weekend, everybody's going to be cooking and they're going to be grilling out and they're making their favorite summer foods because it's the kickoff to summer. And you want to make sure that you're front of mind. So be sharing recipes that are relevant not only to your business and what you do, but the season that you are currently in. If you wanted to talk about what's happening on the farm, this time of year, how do you have crops planted? Which crops do you have already planted? Did you start seeds? Where are the seeds in their growth development? Maybe the grandkids came and they want to sample some early farmers market goods. Talk about the things that you're planning on taking to sell at the farmers market, and talk about what it is that that product does, or different ways that you can use it. Give a review of the product. A lot of things are really commonplace in the ag world, as far as, it's just another day on the farm. We delivered 3 calves this week. Well, most people who do not have a livestock operation do not think that delivering calves is just a regular part of the day. That's super interesting. People want to hear about it. If someone hasn't ever tapped a maple tree before, it's very interesting to them to see the process of how the tree gets tapped and how the tubing goes up. And so these are just really interesting things to people, because you are the expert in that field. They want to see what's going on. They want to know more about it. If you have never stepped foot in a barn before, seeing the inside of a barn and the animals is a really cool thing, and it's very exciting. So, just keep your phone with you and snap a couple pictures or snap a couple videos of you just doing what it is that you normally do. And say that you have an operation that is more than just you, you can do a day in the life of each of the individual people that are working in your agribusiness and what it is that they do. All of these things can be used as social media posts on any platform. You can then repurpose that content as an email. And then several of these things can be combined together, and boom, you have a newsletter. So I just wanted to show how this can really all work together without being too much extra added on to your plate, but it definitely results in increased outreach, increased awareness, and a really good marketing technique that you can use to talk about your business and what it is that you've got going on. So this is the end of my portion of the presentation. I'm going to turn things over to Catherine. Like I said, we will make this presentation available to you after. So if you want the slides, we can get those to you. So this is my email address, our general email address, and our website here, where you can also find a link to a media kit that has more examples of content that you can use, as well as some graphics, and that's all found at the top of the page when you visit future.edu/Maple. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Catherine.
I'm gonna try. All right, can you guys see the full presentation? Oh, I guess it.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you guys. Let's see. Okay, hello. My name is Catherine Belisle. I'm a food scientist in the Cornell Maple program. And Lindsay was very kind to invite me to talk tonight about creating value-added products in maple. But before I do, I just want to make a quick comment on her presentation. I think what she was talking about with marketing for agritourism is really amazing. And it's actually a resource that we use at the Maple program to be able to find people who are making a value-added product that maybe we want to work on, for instance, infused syrups. We go and look at people's websites, at their Instagram pages, and see who is working on those. And then we will sometimes reach out to them and ask them questions about how their process is and things like that. So it's really cool to see it from the other side on how it's actually done. So yeah. Okay, so for today's presentation, as I already mentioned, I'm going to be talking about creating value-added products in maple. This can range from food products to cosmetics, such as lip balms, alcohol products. There's a huge class of different value-added products. It's anything that's going to create more value than what your maple syrup or your maple sap already has. So just for the sake of time, we won't be able to talk about alcoholic beverages or cosmetic and non-food products. We'll have to focus on food products. But I did want to let you guys know that we are releasing 3 notebooks this September. Well, probably end of September. They're going to be a bottled sap notebook, a Buddy maple syrup notebook that's going to focus on making alcohols with Buddy syrup and with Buddy sap as well, if you're interested. And then the last one is I had to write it down because it's not my project. It's a maple skincare and bath products notebook. And this one will include products like lip balm, hand soaps, dispensable soaps, sugar scrubs, exfoliants, a ton of products. So anyway, those will be coming out at the end of September, but today we'll focus on just the foods. Okay, so to start, we will talk about a little bit. This is the only slide I have on the market value of traditional maple confections, or even talking about traditional confections, because last year we dove into those quite a bit, looking at the science of them. And if you want to read into that information, you can look at last year's presentation, or you can look at our New York State Maple Confections notebook, and I'll show that in just a slide or two. But starting out with maple, with traditional maple confections, according to the USDA National Agricultural Statistics Service, they release statistics each year on a variety of agricultural products. And for maple in 2023, the average price for grade A syrup was $10.37 per pint. Now, after doing some little calculations, we can determine how much you would make if you made that product into a cream, a candy, or a sugar. Now, I want to say just a quick disclaimer. The prices here in bold are the prices that they're selling, that cream is being sold for based on the pint of syrup. We did not account for a loss of product. And that's because different producers produce their products in different ways using different equipment. We also didn't account for labor. So I do want to mention that that is something that needs to be taken into account when you're making these value-added products. But even with that, you still would make a profit. I just don't have the ability to consider all of those factors whenever we're making these types of calculations. So traditional confections are wonderful. And they're very popular, especially in the Northeast. I think you guys are at a really great advantage being in West Virginia, because as a Tennessee girl, I didn't know much about maple. So if I had known about maple cream or candy especially, I would have gotten on that immediately, especially for holiday gifts and things. So I think you guys have a great potential to expand your market. But I also wanted to show you some other confections. One of them is a dehydrated maple marshmallow. This one was released at the end of 2022, so it's about a year old as far as a product being out there, but it's still quite a popular product. We ran a consumer test on this before we released our guidelines, and I guess I should actually preface with what we do with these first. So with each of these products that we develop, we will we'll kind of lay out, everything's laid out the same way. So we present the science of that particular product. We dive into what ingredients we use and why. What does gelatin do to marshmallows? What does the maple sugar do in marshmallows? We try to provide that information, one, because it's really cool information, but also because if you have trouble with your product, then you can read that science of section and see, okay, well, let's see. The sugar, if I use too high of an invert sugar, it's going to cause a stickiness in the marshmallows, and my marshmallows are sticky, so maybe that could be the reason. So that's what we have as the science of section. We also have a recipe section, a regulations section that's mostly focused on New York, but we're trying to make that more broad now that we know that we're reaching people outside of New York. And then we try and include a consumer preference section. So what I'm presenting today is just the consumer preference. We asked our panelists how well they liked or disliked a dehydrated marshmallow product. And we just gave them 2 to 3 marshmallows in little tin cup or little plastic cups here. And we did ask them a few more questions, but you have to look at our article in order to see those ones. So if you look here at the figure, on the x-axis, we have overall liking percentage. And on the y-axis, we have dislike extremely all the way to like extremely. So as you can see, they perform quite well. A like moderately and above was rated by 92% of panelists, meaning 92% of panelists like the product moderately or more. And 73% of panelists like the product very much or extremely. Now, we gather this information on our finished products so that we can see how well they have the potential to perform. During this sensory test, we did it during a maple weekend, and we actually were able to sell these little marshmallow packets in the bottom right-hand corner. And when we were able to give out samples, the days that we were giving out samples of the marshmallows, the purchase of these marshmallows increased significantly. So if you are looking to add one of these newer value-added products and your consumers may not know what they are, I would suggest giving samples if you can, just because raising consumer awareness, sometimes you can't tell what a product is based on looking at it, or consumers might not know exactly what it's gonna taste like. So, and then the last thing with the marshmallows is that these are just the ingredients of them. We have gelatin sheets, maple syrup, and it's also maple sugar, invertase enzyme, and salt. So overall, the product to produce a 3-ounce package is $2.49. These are 1-ounce packages, by the way. And for retail, that is sold, the gourmet dehydrated marshmallows are sold at $4.23 to $5. for a 3-ounce package. So there's quite a gap to be able to make some profit off of these marshmallows. One of our new products is a maple hazelnut spread, and you guys are the first ones to see these results. We just conducted this sensory test last weekend. We really like to take advantage of maple weekends because you have maple consumers come in, so perfect market. We asked the consumers 2 questions this time that we're going to talk about today at least. We asked them liking. We used a 5-point scale this time instead of a 9-point scale. So we had dislike extremely to like extremely and percentage of respondents. So overall, you can see it's quite positive. 90% of the panelists like the product moderately or more. We wanted to add in an extra question this time. We wanted to ask them what their likelihood of purchasing the product would be. From a sensory science perspective, this is a difficult area to go into, because if you picture one product in the grocery store that you like very much, but maybe it's not in your budget that week, or maybe usually it's let's see, maybe it's not very healthy. I'm trying to think of other things of why we wouldn't purchase things. Maybe it's a spoil treat and it's not something that you want to purchase all the time, but you would want to purchase it. The point of it is that asking intent to purchase questions are quite difficult. So we wanted to make it broad. We wanted to say, okay, if price weren't an issue, that's the simplest one that we did, is if price weren't an issue, how likely would you be to purchase this product? We had the same scale, definitely would not buy, all the way up to would definitely buy. And so on the y-axis, again, we have the percentage of respondents, and you can see that quite a few people agreed that they would buy our maple hazelnut spread. Overall, for the would probably buy and would definitely buy, we had 74% of panelists mark that on their ballots. This weekend, we're going to do a chocolate hazelnut spread sensory test for the second maple weekend. And all of these results are going to be available in the next month or so. We'll put it on our website. But you guys are the first to see this. So for our maple hazelnut spread, for the ingredients, we have roasted hazelnuts. We have 4 different types of fats. Now, if you are someone who does not want to use these 4 different types of fats, you can use palm oil. We tried to steer away from palm oil because there's some issues with consumer acceptance of that particular oil. We wanted to use oils that had higher antioxidants in them and overall were a little bit healthier for the overall product. We added an emulsifier, which is lecithin, maple sugar, of course, whole milk powder, and then whey protein concentrate. Just a note for the whey protein concentrate, this is different than a whey protein isolate. The whey protein concentrate still contains the lactose sugars, and it plays a kind of a marriage role with whole milk powder in this product. So it was really essential that we had both, for the overall quality of the product. And so we were looking at selling these in 6-ounce containers we have here. And for a 6-ounce container, that costs $1.96 to produce. And for retail price, I found between $5 to $8.80 for that same size. Now, some people are selling this product for a higher, with a higher volume. So 350 grams up to 400 grams. So you can kind of play around with this and see what you want to do best. One really great thing about this product is that you take about 30 minutes to pour all of the ingredients in a stone grinder or a melanger. You just need to pour them in a very specific order. But once they're poured in there, you let the grinding do its thing, and you don't have to have anyone check on it for about 4 hours. And then after those 4 hours, then you can put it in its containers. So it's a much easier product to make. And I think that's one reason this one's going to be pretty popular. We already have one producer that's interested in selling it. All right, so if you want to make value-added products, there are a couple places to get started with it. The first is on the left side of the screen, there are traditional confections. If you want to stick with those are classic, consumers love them, then you can look at our book that's available on cornellmaple.com. This year, we released a cream troubleshooting article, a sugar troubleshooting article, and a new crystal coating method for maple candies. One quick note on our maple candies, we just checked the candies that are in a shelf life study, a 12-month shelf life study, and they're at month 10 right now, and they are doing quite well. We had a comparison between traditionally crystal coated candy, which has a really nice sparkle to it, and our new crystal coated candy method. And this one doesn't have as much of a sparkle to it. It's more of a very thin layer of small crystals, so you can't see the shine as well as you can with the other one. But the shelf life appears to be longer on the new method. Anyway, take a look at those guidelines. They're all on our website. And if you can't find them, just let me know and I'll help you get them. But if you want to go into the other confections and you maybe don't know where to get started, or you're trying to look at one part of the process and you don't really know where to start, or whatever the situation may be, we're going to cover just how you can get started with making value-added products and selling them and doing it in a way that's as safe as possible. So we have 5 steps here. The first is you want to sell a food or beverage. Where do you start? Where will the food or beverage be produced? And then, of course, it was New York focused, but we have it West Virginia focused for today. Do you need to register your facility with the State Department? Do you need to register your facility with FDA, or if you're using meat, USDA? And what are current good manufacturing practices? So first, you need to select a product. That's where you get started. So you can select a variety of different products. Any of the ones on the screen, any of the ones on our website, or anything that you dream of. We have, this product is actually just being released. I think they released it last week. And this is a producer that came up to us 2 years ago and said, hey, I want to make this kind of product. Can you share some information? And this is actually where this fact sheet on the 5 steps started from. And now they're launching. And tasted the product. It's absolutely wonderful. So anyway, the first step is choosing whatever product you want to make. Oh, I forgot to put this in. Okay, so once you choose a product, you're going to have to go through some safety procedures. And I wanted to just kind of back up a little bit and talk about maple syrup, just so we can get a grasp on some of the definitions for safety. So we all know some of this stuff, of course. Maple syrup contains 66% sugar, which is the same as saying 66 degrees Brix, and 34% water. It may also contain salt, chemical preservatives, and defoaming agents, and that is defined by the FDA. Now, for packaging requirements, we know we have to concentrate it to the appropriate Brix, and we know we have to hot pack it, and then once it's hot packed, we have to invert it at a minimum of 180 Fahrenheit. We usually do about 185 to 190 just to be safe. But have you ever wondered why these specific numbers? Why 66 Brix and why the 180 Fahrenheit? If you are wondering, I think it's super interesting. Hopefully you guys do too. So for these specific values, the sugar concentration reduces the available water for microbes. So what I mean by that is, if you look at this little diagram, all the blue dots and the blue solid are water molecules, and the white are sugar molecules. Water will actually bind to sugar molecules, and when that water binds, it is no longer available for microorganisms to use. The same happens with soy sauce. So salt acts the same way as sugar does. Not the exact same, but the same in this context, in that sugar will bind to water and it will well, kind of bind. Okay, so sugar will bind with water and it will not, that water will no longer be available for microbes. So at 66 Brix, we have enough water that is bound to the sugars where we don't have to worry about yeast and bacteria and mold growing in that solution. So that's one part, the sugars. So at the sugar concentration, most yeast and bacteria cannot grow. Yes, mold can. We'll talk about that in a second. The second step is hot packing. So the hot packing will kill or inactivate the microbes, such as yeast, bacteria, or molds. So if you have a product, or your product is maple syrup, if you have your maple syrup and it's at 65% sugar, but you do everything else right, you're hot packing, you're inverting, everything is perfect, you have a vacuum seal on your cap, everything's beautiful, but that sugar level is too low, you will first get mold growth, but you can get yeast and bacteria growth as well. Most of the time it's mold growth because molds perform better in those temperatures, or sorry, in those conditions. But bacteria and yeast can grow under like very extreme conditions. And the other thing is with hot packing, if it's not hot packed properly, then what you've done is you've not been able to create a vacuum seal. So because you don't have that vacuum seal, it's not a sterile environment. And whatever's in that headspace, the mold, it'll be spores and the mold will be able to grow. So I mention this because we know the rules for pure maple syrup. It's considered a non-hazardous food, a low-risk food, because we can have mold, but people can see mold and then they know to dispose of the product. But sometimes with products, you may not be able to see the mold or you may not be able to see the bacteria, and then consumers could potentially get sick. So when you're using pure maple products, you don't have to worry about food safety as much as you do with other value-added products. However, still, of course, follow the 66 Brix and over 180 Fahrenheit for bottling. For value-added products, I have this little spiel in here, but maple syrup, if anything's added to it other than those ingredients we talked about, the salt, the preservatives, or defoaming agents, we also cannot call it pure maple syrup, and we have to have it evaluated for safety. And this is the case in New York. This is the case in West Virginia. For some states, infused syrups, which is the little product I'm going to pretend to make, some states do not require that the product is evaluated for safety. However, if I were in those states and I was producing these products, I would have them evaluated for safety just because I just want to know my numbers. I want to know, do I need to still say a 66 Brix if I'm making a blueberry maple syrup? Do I need to go higher? Like, I would just want to know those numbers so I make sure that all of my products are going to be safe. I don't waste anything, and all my consumers are safe. So the product I chose to make was the blueberry maple syrup. And we all know blueberries are filled with water. Am I okay on time? Okay. We all know blueberries are filled with water, and unfortunately, even if we make a compote, we are at the risk of lowering the Brix of our syrup, and that means that we're increasing the available water for microbes to then spoil that product. So our concern, we just said it, product is no longer safe. So what do? We get this product evaluated through a process approval to determine what we call critical factors. So these are our factors that are critical during the production of said product. So our process approver, they're called process authority, and they're typically food scientists. They will go in and they will evaluate your product and they'll say, okay, your Brix is important and your water activity is important. So each time you make this product, you need to keep a bottle of the product for storage, like put it in your storage, just in case someone says, oh gosh, I got sick from this batch. And then you can pull out that bottle and say, okay, I've got a copy of it. Let me just go ahead and measure the Brix and water activity. So you need to have that sample, but you also need to measure your Brix and water activity during production. So the process authority will tell you which stage of production to measure those values, and they'll also tell you if there are other values that need to be measured. If you're making a product like a coffee, vanilla, or cinnamon maple syrup, those ones don't have water. So do we have to worry about them as much? We do, unfortunately. So beans and spices, even though they are dry products, they still contain microorganisms. So one solution around that is that they could be heat treated before they're bottled. One thing that is often done is blanching. So you have a pot of boiling water, you put, say, the cinnamon stick into that boiling water for 3 seconds, and then you take it out and you would put it into your bottle. However, there's another problem. What if you are taking your syrup, it's at 180, and maybe your cinnamon stick has cooled off, and you put your cold cinnamon stick into your syrup bottle, and then you cap it? Well, your temperature might be below 180 at that point. So your process authority might say, I want you to go to 185 or 190 with your syrup, because I want to make sure that when your cinnamon stick is in there, it is still safe to put in there. Oh, and yeah, cold beans, you definitely want to treat your beans in some way, or treat your spices in some way. And again, the process authority will tell you what the appropriate thing is for that. Some of the critical factors they might say is what your heating time is and what your heating temperature is. Just wanted to give you guys a quick look at what the form looks like when you're submitting this process approval form. So you have this is for the Food Venture Center in Cornell. You have your name and company information, your product ingredients, production process, the storage containers you use. Remember, we talked about the vacuum seal. That's very important that they know which storage containers you use, and you can put multiple. You don't have to use just one. Your preservation method. This would be important if you're making, say you're making the marshmallow and you're looking at doing dehydrated versus freeze-dried. Then that's where looking at, different preservation methods is going to come into play. For yours, this one would be a hot fill. It could also be a water bath. And then if there are any allergens. So this process approval, it's again used to determine if there are critical factors. So this can be defined as points in the production process in which food safety needs to be controlled. So we talked about water activity, Brix, temperature. It can also be acidity and your entire thermal processing procedure. Wanted to give you guys just an example of what ours look like for some of our products. This is a maple tangerine sports drink. This is what's called an acidified food, meaning that we had a product, its pH was like 6.5 or so, and we had to lower that pH until it was at a safe level. And so the rule in food science is that you need to have your pH below 4.2 to prevent botulism. That's just the staple. But our process authority, as you can see, maximum pH 3.8. They really like to play it safe, and I don't blame them. We don't want anyone to get sick. So they told us what our pH needed to be, what our heat temperature needed to be, and how long we needed to keep our sports drink at that temperature. And then they told us about filling it and how long to hold it whenever we invert the bottle. Very similar for a product like a maple marshmallow. Maple marshmallows have low water activity, so there's little water available for microbes, which is really great for stability of a product. So our maximum water activity is 0.85. Our cook temperature is above 180, and our cook hold time is above 5 minutes. Our water activity is at 0.78, so we are a-okay. We actually heat this to 230, 240. So we didn't have to even worry about making sure we got to 180, but we did write down that we got to about 240, or I forget what the specific temperature is right now. But these are what they will look like. This is something that we have to keep records on every single time we make the product. And so this is what our critical factors log looks like at the Cornell Maple program. everything that's in yellow is what was on what the process authority said that we must keep records of. And then everything that's not highlighted are things that we wanted to know about, just for our own records. Now, food venture centers, that's where we go to get our process approvals. There are ones in multiple states. I was not able to find any in West Virginia. I was kind of struggling with that, so I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to present that. But you can use ones in other states. So if you want to look at a neighboring state to you, you can absolutely reach out to them. Of course, you can always reach out to our food venture center. They are not state specific. They are based, they're, how do I say this? The information that they provide is based on FDA and USDA, not based on state regulations. So it doesn't matter which state you go to for getting a process approval. And there, you can use them. Say I live in New York right now and I have a process approval for the Tangerine sports drink, but I want to move to Hawaii and make this. I don't need to get another process approval. I already am set. Okay, the next thing is, where are we going to produce our infused syrups? Well, home kitchens, I can produce at a home kitchen if I have no food safety concern. We already know there is a food safety concern, so that one's a no-go. There are also commercial kitchens. So that's perfect because we have critical factors. We don't have specialized equipment for making infused syrup. Not really, not in the last step. So, but I do have critical factors. A shared kitchen. This is very similar to a commercial kitchen, but it's just rented to individuals. These are often hard to find because they're not a profitable business. So typically you'll see them at universities, or once in a while you'll see ones that pop up, but they tend to go out of business, unfortunately. And then a co-packer, food manufacturing facility that produces and packages products. This is something, if you're looking at producing a couple thousand units of your product. So this is when you start to scale up. If you are doing home or commercial kitchens, you can go to your state department for those. And I'm going to talk about West Virginia in just a second. If you are looking for co-packer resources, we have our Cornell Center of Excellence. They help with co-packers. And then I've put a list of a couple shared kitchens. I was able to find one in West Virginia called Lemongrass Kitchen. It opened in 2022. I do not know that if it is still open. I was trying to find other ones, but it was a little bit of a struggle. So if you want to go to any of these types of shared kitchens, then they're usually wonderful to use. You do have to pay a fee for each time that you use them. If you want to make a commercial kitchen on your own, we're going to dive into that a little bit, because that is a very useful thing to have, especially if you're making multiple value-added products or making them throughout the year or multiple times. So the first thing, if you're doing, we're going to do home kitchen first. So the first thing is looking at, if you are doing a home kitchen, what does that actually mean? I'm going to skip over New York, just for the sake of, oh my goodness, wow, time flies. Just for the sake of time, we're skipping New York. So for West Virginia, your cottage food laws, no license is required. That is wonderful. There is a license in ours. The big things with this, you cannot produce a product that is refrigerated, needs refrigeration, or has any potential hazards. So, and you cannot mail your food products, and you cannot do out-of-state sales. Your best resource, it has so much information, is the Farmers Market Vendor Guide. So this is from that Farmers Market Vendor Guide. For non-potentially hazardous foods, they have this great little thing. Where are you selling your product? I'm selling it in state. Great, that's wonderful. This is what your requirements are. If you're selling it out of state, you then have to produce it in a commercial kitchen. We'll share these slides so you can look back through them. I just don't want to take too much of your all's time. Really quick back to our infused maple syrup. So this is your state department's requirements. products that contain additional ingredients for tree syrups are not included in this provision. They fall under potentially hazardous categories. So they need to be analyzed to determine their sellability in West Virginia markets. So you are going to have to go through that process approval for any infused syrups that you are making. If you are in a situation where you're exempt or not exempt, you're not able to produce your product in a home kitchen and you need to do that commercial kitchen, then we're gonna ignore New York State. Then you're gonna go back to that food vendor. I already forgot the name of it. Oh goodness, what was that? The Farmers Market Vendor Guide. You're gonna go back to that, and you're gonna have this really helpful diagram. So, where are you selling your food product? I'm selling it in state. Where's my market? Okay, well, yeah, maybe I want to do retail. I want to sell it in some stores. Well, that's considered interstate commerce. So I have to get a commercial kitchen. Okay, cool. I know that. That's good. So what products are you selling? Well, maybe you don't want to get into the beef jerky side yet, but you want to make the hazelnut spread. Then you'll say other, and then you'll have to contact your local health department for food establishment permits. And you need to contact this acronym for label review. The point of this is check out that guide because there's a lot of really great information that's of course specific to West Virginia. The last thing is you might need to register with the FDA or USDA. If this is the case, check out the University of Wisconsin guidelines. They walk you through the entire process. If you have any trouble with it, please reach out to us. We've already done it with ours, so it's easy peasy, free of charge to register and all of that. So, and the last thing is to label your product. In West Virginia, you can look at that Farmers Market Vendor Guide, but if you really want to or need to follow FDA guidance, then look at the Guidance for Industry Food Labeling Guide. This is the one that we use anyway, just because that protects us. We have our nutrition labels, we have everything that we need. But depending on the size of your operation, you might not need the nutrition label. So starting out, look at the Farmers Market Vendor Guide, and then you can go into the FDA one. This is just an example label. And this is something about, or well, this is from the food labeling guide and talks about, things like the principal display panel, the nutrition facts and ingredients need to go on the right side. Small things like that. Excuse me. And then the last thing is resources that we have. We have a scholarship program to do product development certificate, and it walks you through, how to commercialize your product, how to get through regulations for your specific product. And this period has closed, but they continue to open it up. So just look at Food Spark Scholarship. It's $200. I took 2 of the 4 courses. It's beautiful, beautiful program. There are also a lot of online courses available if you are interested. We have the Center of Excellence, which is great if you are looking for co-packers or you're looking for someone to produce your product. Say you're making a chocolate and you want to find someone for that. Now, Center of Excellence does work with New York processors and manufacturers for the most part. So that one, just be aware of it in case that's something that is important to you. The Food Venture Center, they do what's called the Better Process Control School. So if you're making a product that needs to be acidified, like the maple sports drink, then that is the course that you would need to take, but you can take it at any accredited program. They offer lab analyses, the scheduled processes for safety. And then the last thing is if you want to do a shelf life study, or if you're told that you need a verified pathogen-free test, meaning testing your product to make sure it doesn't have E. coli, Campylobacter, botulism, things like that. Well, they don't test for botulism, but E. coli, Campylobacter, and things. Then you can go to the Microbial Food Safety and Quality Outreach Program. And if all of this, if you fell asleep and you're like, oh crap, I forgot, just give me an email. Just shoot me an email and say, hey, I'm interested in this and I need help with it, just please let me know and I will do my best to help you or point you in the right direction. And lastly, thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope this information was helpful. And just here's a picture of my team. This is Robert, Alish, and Aaron, and we have a new member, Mike, and this is us out tapping. If you get a chance, check out our podcast, Sweet Talk, All Things Maple. Aaron, our co-director, and Adam, our other co-director of the program, host it, and it's really pretty cool. Thank you guys. All right, how do I?
Thank you so much, Catherine. That was a great presentation filled with so much information.
I'm sorry I went over a little bit. I didn't mean to, but I hope it was
No.
informative for everyone.
That's absolutely fine. And this also gives me the opportunity I'm going to drop a link here in the chat. Because if you are thinking about going through the process of creating a value-added product, whether that be one of the items that Catherine talked about this evening, or maybe it's something a little bit different. We here at Future Generations University are offering a value-added training. This series is going to take place at different locations throughout West Virginia. Off the top of my head, I know Charleston, Linwood, I believe up in the Wheeling area, Williamson. I think there's 6 locations, and it's a 5-part series. So if you are interested in coming to that, I've dropped the link in there and you can find more information there along with how to register. But we will help walk you through this process of creating a value-added product and what it looks like to get it onto shelves. So thank you, Catherine, for talking about this. That was like a perfect segue for me to move into some of the other announcements that we have, which includes that value-added training. If you have questions for Catherine or myself, please feel free to drop those in the chat or the Q&A box, and we will get to those. Special thank you to Cindy Martell for being the queen of resources and popping all of those links into the chat for us. Our next webinar, our next Out of the Woods session takes place on Thursday, April 18th. And that is the Thursday right before the West Virginia Maple Syrup Producers Association's annual meeting. So if you would like more information on that meeting, please visit the producers website. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. And you can find more information about the annual meeting and how to register there. I don't think I have any other announcements. I appreciate everyone joining us this evening. It was great to have you. And thank you, Catherine, so much for being with us this evening and talking about all of the sweet confection and value added work that Cornell is helping the maple industry with.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. I do want to share one thing. I saw the 2023 version of the vendor guide was shared. For some reason, I don't know why, but they didn't have information on cottage food laws. The 2020, let me see what version is that. The 2020 version does have cottage food laws in case that is something that, like, if someone happens to be looking at the cottage food laws side of it. So I just shared that link. But anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much.
That is perfect. Thank you, Catherine. And we will see everyone next month. Thank you.